and the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-host and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employers. Viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on our live shows. Welcome to This Week in Guns. This show is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network and Patriot Patch Company.
Welcome to This Week in Guns. The show offers commentary on the latest firearms industry, news, information, and buzz. I'm your host, Jake Challen. Before you shop Amazon, make sure you go support the Firearms Radio Network and This Week in Guns by shopping Amazon. Head on over to firearmsradio.tv/Amazon. We have a great panel this week. We have Ryan Kleckner returning. He's a former special operations sniper, current best-selling author of the Long Range Shooting Handbook, firearms attorney, too many other things to list. You can catch up with him over at gununiversity.com. Hey, Ryan.
Thanks for having me back on.
Great to have you back on. Donnie Gates is joining us from the host of Adulting with Donnie podcast and co-host of the Gun Shop Guys podcast, former U.S. Army artilleryman and MP, and now serving as a mail escort for the United States Postal Service in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. You really want people to know where you're working?
Pretty sure that was wrong.
Your route.
I put in a pronunciation this time because last time you said the same thing.
I can't. You got to put it before because I'm like, man.
you just read right ahead. Thanks for having me back, Jake.
Good to have you. And we have Daniel Scholl returning. He's a retired Marine infantryman, the host of the longest running Never Mind a Few Breaks firearms related podcast, the Gunfighter Cast. He streams nightly on Twitch, talking guns nightly, gear and training and playing games. He is the owner and instructor at Shaw Strategies and a slinger of magazines for Gun Mag Warehouse. Hey, Daniel.
Hey, Jake. Thanks for having me back, buddy.
Great to have you back. And I did see that you had a new episode out. I was amazed.
I got two of them out. I got two new episodes out. Welcome back, Gunfighter Cast. Yeah. Got one recording tomorrow, too.
You're on a roll. You're almost like me back on Gun Guy Radio.
Yep. Coming back.
Back from the dead. Patriot Patch Company makes this episode possible. You can check out the Patch of the Month Club over at patriotpatch.co. Unique patch delivered to your mailbox every month with artwork card, sticker. Also have a patch drops sometimes on Fridays now for unique limited runs. patriotpatch.co. So let's get into the top stories this week. Start with some positive news. Loud boom. That's right. A loud boom heard in Texas was recently, it was linked to a gender reveal using tannerite.
I'd like to know how they, there's no information in the article really. Like it doesn't seem like they found out anything. They have no information on what the gender was. And I want to know how they planned that. Did someone put like blue or pink something into?
Well, first of all, you're already assuming that there's
how can you assume
a binary gender. Like
Yeah.
there's only two. All right. So how dare you?
How dare me?
So we in Texas a few years ago at Colby Donaldson's ranch. So the Top Shot host guy, Colby, good dude. We're out there having fun filming a promo video for him. And we put, 15, 20 pounds of tannerite, maybe some gas and road flares together. Huge explosion, blew up a truck. Laughed, got it all on film. We're in the lodge a couple hours later, still editing some of the footage. We were literally leaning over one of the computers laughing at watching this like Michael Bay-esque explosion go through the air. And we got a phone call from the sheriff's department. And the sheriff's like, "Hey, Donaldson boys, was that you?" It took 2 hours. And he's like, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Uh-huh. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Uh-huh." And he got off the phone. He said, "Deputies are on their way out." It's like,
Uh-oh.
oh, shoot, what are we going to do? So 30 minutes later, because we're out in the middle of nowhere, Texas, deputies come out. And they come walking out of their truck, and they're pulling their gun belts up, and they mosey on up. "So what you boys doing out here?" "Well, shooting some tannerite." "That's what we're doing. We're having fun." So tell you what, next time we'd appreciate if you gave us a call because you scared people 5 miles away in all directions. They thought a gas line exploded out there. And second, I bet that was pretty cool to watch. We would have appreciated getting to see it. So, Texas is a little different when it comes to tannerite.
Yeah, that's awesome. That was way better than the actual news story we have here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was no info in there. Like,
Well, I kind of read it as the local authorities knew who it was.
I
but
see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Who it was.
Yeah.
So. And a positive news, ammo sales rise along with the coronavirus fears. Oh, first of all, I didn't ask you guys, did you all get your toilet paper? Lysol? Are you stocking?
What wipes?
I have a normal, reasonable quantity of toilet paper.
So tell me, what is a reasonable quantity of toilet paper?
I don't know. 3 in my household, bathroom stock, one of those cubes in the little cabinet. Yeah, that's about it.
Prepper.
So ammo sales rise along with coronavirus fears. This is like according to one website, so who knows what it is across the industry.
It is rising across the industry.
It is. Okay.
It's from ammo.com. And did you see that the highest rise was 410% of 40 cal?
I can explain that.
Please do. I was very lost when I read that.
It may anger people.
I got the same opinion, Daniel.
So there's a low information gun owner out there, and I'm not saying they're nothing negative toward them whatsoever. I think it's part of us as a community. Our job is to inform people and increase our brothers and sisters' education level on firearms. When we're talking rounds without stealing a whole podcast for 2 hours and talking about real science behind ammunition, it does not surprise me that the people who love 40 caliber are also stocking up on ammo right now, late, if you're talking about prepping for the coronavirus.
Amen.
I see. That, okay.
So I know manufacturers. I talked to one of them as recently as this morning, talking about how they're thinking about just shutting the phones off because the customers are calling, even distributors and dealers are calling and saying, what can I do to get it faster? Like you can't. This is the best we can do. People are offering insane promises for future ammo. It's the panic has definitely made it all the way upstream to the manufacturers as of today.
Well, I'm thinking Charmin and like Angel Soft should pair up with like Remington and Winchester, and maybe they could offer some package deals here and combine
shit paper for shit ammo.
I considered doing something funny with Gun Mag, just like hey, next 100 orders you get a free roll of toilet paper.
There you go.
Something fun. Just I don't think I could find 100 rolls of toilet paper right now in the Coppell, Texas area.
Yeah, or anywhere. I mean, I'm here in middle of nowhere, South Dakota, and
I have a coworker who basically lives off restaurants every day of his life. Doesn't make food, doesn't shop, doesn't do anything, doesn't cook in the house. And I was like, dude, you are gonna die, like, or you're gonna be hungry, you're gonna be miserable. So like, so I got his credit card and I went to give the wife to go get him some long-term food because nothing was available on Amazon. Amazon is cleared out, gone. So just went. So I sent her to REI to get him a bunch of Backpackers Pantry stuff. It's a little pricey, but it's good stuff. But man, like I was like, dude. But she went to Costco to get stuff, everything, not just toilet paper. If it wipes, it was out of Costco. That's pretty crazy.
People are losing
even the rigid, uncomfortable paper towels, like the brown cardboard stuff. They were out of that. Like, I don't even want to know who's using that.
Desperate times, So also a companion story, Asian Americans take up arms as coronavirus fears escalate. This is more on the West Coast, it looks like.
I'm glad that people are realizing that firearms are a means for safety.
Yes.
Well put. So,
sorry, Jake. That's all we got on that one. Yeah, good.
I don't understand. I don't understand why so many people are just losing their minds. Wash your hands and go about your day. It's driving me insane. It's filling up my news feed. It's all I see. Every third post is something about this stupidness.
Well, do you think it might be opening up people to think more seriously about prepping.
Yeah, I would say that's probably true. That and who knows? I mean, but is that going to be is this going to go away in 6 weeks? And in 6 weeks, are those people also going to go away? Those people that are thinking like, oh man, I wish I'd have done this a year ago. And then in 6 weeks, this goes away, and then they go back to how they were. I'll deal with it next time.
Right. We do have very, very short memories in the United States.
Big time.
I would say more so than most countries out there. Very short memories. But there will probably be some people that come over to the more preparedness way of thinking. And and if we get a few and it grows, and then their sphere of influence grows some more people, I think it'd be a great thing for our country to get. I mean, any time that an American citizen or a citizen of the world becomes a bit more self-reliant is a good thing, man. It's great.
Absolutely. 44 firearms recovered after deadly tornado rips through Middle Tennessee. You may have seen this on the news. There was a lot of deaths in the greater Nashville area. So apparently, a lot of Tennesseans own guns that got whipped through the air by the tornado, and people are picking them up now.
Yeah, I'm just south of Nashville. Just the outskirts of Nashville, and tornado did not hit our neighborhood or even really come near us, but still was woken up in the middle of the night by what sounded like a freight train of wind and rain. And this ties into what you guys were just talking about with the prepping. I'm gonna shame myself publicly here. Every time a tornado comes close to us, I think, man, I have the means. Why don't I get a tornado shelter? I need to get one. And then the tornado goes away. 2 weeks go by. I'm busy. I'm doing something else. I don't do it. And I think about it every time I get the tornado alert on my phone. I hear the sirens going off.
Every time you're up in bed at night, watching the weather all night long because you can't sleep.
Last time it happened, not this time, but the time before, I said, I think I failed as a father. My job is to protect my family, and here I am again, not getting one. So one of the many things I do is Mayday Safety. It's a public safety app for churches and schools and stuff. And most of our people that come on board don't finish completely signing up or setting it up. They do the same thing I'm doing. We call it scratching an itch. They have this itch at the back of their head, like, man, I got to do something about this. They have one meeting with us, like, oh, good, we're going to get that now, and they stop thinking about it from then on out until it comes up again.
Yeah, and I got to confess too. I'm not nearly as prepared as I thought I was either. We went to have tacos tonight, and we were out of sour cream.
Oh no!
I know.
Worst.
I'm stocked up on like everything, but
the taco's ruined at that point.
I know. What's the point? I mean, you just throw it all away, right?
I thought that any place that was susceptible to tornadoes came standard with tornado bunkers.
It should. I mean, I'm from Arizona though, so I'm not used to natural disasters. So I don't think ahead when I'm buying a house. Apparently, I thought you were going somewhere else with taco night. I thought you were going to say you're unprepared with the TP. Yeah,
that's what I thought. I thought the same thing.
Moving on, New Jersey armored car driver and licensed carry holder arrested for possessing hollow point ammunition.
This story is crazy. I think that he had that polymer filled ammo.
Yeah, one of the critical defense or critical duty, one of the two.
Right, and it's and I don't know. Ryan would know more, I guess. Isn't that legal in New Jersey?
I think it's debatable. So the New Jersey police website says that hollow point ammunition doesn't include things that have filled cavities like Hornady critical defense or critical duty. They actually name it by brand. Right. But here's the problem. This sounds fundamentally unfair to most people, but you can't trust the police to determine what's legal and what's not. I have that all the time with my clients with the ATF. It's like, well, I called the ATF and this guy said I was allowed to do this. Why am I getting in trouble for it by this other person? Like, just because one cop tells you it's okay to speed doesn't mean the other cop is going to let you speed.
Right.
It's so unfortunately
being arrested and convicted are two widely different things.
That's true. You might be able to beat the rap, but not the ride. It's just be careful if you live in states like that, and don't just because the police department said it doesn't mean that's what the prosecutors or anyone else is going to say. Or heck, when I lived in Connecticut, more than half the cops I encountered thought silencers were illegal. They were perfectly legal, and I just prayed I didn't get pulled over by one of those guys.
Right.
So
this guy had not only license to carry, he had I think like a security.
He had like an armed security license.
Right.
Because he was working for an armored car company, I think.
Right. And so, in his state, you have to have like your gun on your carry card, like what gun it is. And you have to be carrying that gun and not a different gun.
Mhm.
And he was in compliance there. He was in compliance across the board. I mean,
it's short how the article reads is that it looks like he was fine and he's probably going to be found not guilty, but now he's not working either.
Yep.
So there is a not a GoFundMe, but a type of GoFundMe set up to help him with his legal fees and try to keep him above board while he's going through this mess.
This kind of thing often to me screams like either you got a cop who's kind of on a little power trip. I'm going to find something on this guy. Thinks he can carry a gun like us, or the guy himself is like, I'm legal. You know, he's got this super ego macho thing going on with him. And the cop's like, oh yeah, well, I'll play a little game. You know, if you want to act this way, a certain way, but you never know. Sounds pretty crazy. I personally would not live in a place where I can't use effective ammunition, but not everybody can move wherever they want to. I understand that.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Florida man is a burglary suspect because Google tracked him riding his bicycle past a recently broken into home. This is a really long story, but this is pretty disturbing.
It's crazy. It's another crazy story.
Yeah, he had no idea that he was part of a police investigation until he got an email from Google stating, and it was a very like generic email, stating that they're going to release information on him, and he had like, I don't know, like 7 or 10 days to act to stop them from releasing all of his info to the police department. And you know, he ended up his parents ended up hiring an attorney to look into the matter. And I mean, it basically, the police put out this like dragnet in the area.
Geofence warrant was what it's called.
Yeah, geofence warrant, and it encompasses like anyone that had a Wi-Fi signal, Bluetooth signal, any kind of signal in the area, and then they look through raw data, and then they decide, oh, who do we want to see all their data to?
Right.
And then they submit that to a judge, and the judge is like, oh yeah, you can look at all their Google data. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
I had never heard of a geofence warrant rather until this morning, and then I started looking up what states they're going down in, which I couldn't really find that out either. To think that this is like government overreach, and I've never really been an anti-government person, but this is one of those times where I'm like, whoa, they can just put up a thing and get the info for everyone within, it was like 2 or 5 miles, I think. They can get all the info for everyone that was within 2 or 5 miles of where that happened.
Yeah, and he was using a app to track his mileage.
Right.
So it wasn't even a Google app itself. It was like Runkeeper or Ridekeeper or something like that.
Yeah.
And he used the Google, like, you know, if you have a Google account, you can use that to log into many other things that aren't necessarily a Google property.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what seems like happened here.
Was it an Android device?
It was an Android device.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
I've seen news reports of people taking Android devices, putting them in airplane mode, and traveling around the city, making all the stops, hooking up to a computer that can intercept the data going to Google, turning it back onto live, taking it out of airplane mode, and watch the entire data packet of the entire day's travels, even while it was in airplane mode, get sent back to the Google mothership. Every store, every time, every route. Android phones.
I do
everything.
I do a ton of snowmobiling here up in the Northeast, and I have an app, and there's no cell phone service way up where I go. No cell phone service. There's no towers within miles upon miles, and I put my phone in airplane mode, and yet I still have a GPS app for snowmobiling on the trails that tracks every single move I'm making.
Yeah.
It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's magic. So,
well, it's just like a regular old GPS then, right? Late 90s, early 2000s, dumb GPS. But yeah, Google, as soon as you take it back out, it shares it. The Android phones spit it all back upstream.
The other thing about that article was that had I gotten that email, I'd think it was spam. There's no way I would have ever believed it. Mm-hmm. I would have been like, yeah, this is just nonsense, and it's good.
This makes me want to create an app or like a Google Chrome plugin extension that whenever you're not on your computer, it's just searching really weird stuff. Like it's just like the craziest stuff you could think of,
just to overwhelm them.
just like it's just constantly like things that nobody would ever search. They're like, man,
busy.
what? Look at this guy. And if everybody used it, they're overwhelmed, right?
You guys know who Penn Jillette is from Penn and Teller, magician? So he's a pretty famous libertarian. And after 9/11, and they started saying they're searching through people's emails for keywords that are getting flagged. That's what he and all his friends did, or at least he says that. In their email signatures, they put bomb, terrorist, America, like all these words in their signatures. So every email, and their theory was, we'll just flood them with useless work and maybe they'll stop looking.
They're always looking.
They'll just hire more people.
Big brother.
Yeah, it makes me want to get like a dumb phone again or something, and just leave my smartphone in my office all the time. And
you don't have a burner that you carry with your burner gun?
I need.
By the way, guys, I'd like to just take this moment to say how much respect I have for the NSA and the FBI. Hello, everybody.
You should all trust your government.
We're here to protect you.
I don't know what your guys' problem was before we started recording, but I don't have those anti-government sentiments like you guys do. So
AR-15s are conquering Russia. Overview of emerging Russian AR-15 market is on the Firearm blog. Top of this article is not that interesting, but when you scroll down and you start seeing all the manufacturers of these different AR-15s that are Russian born, it's like it's kind of a whole new world. It's I mean, some of them are pretty funny. I mean, they look like AR-15s that came out in the 90s or like before the assault weapon ban. Just awful.
So I know it's funny for us here for people to put like the 3 Adidas stripes on an AK-47 to make it look. I wonder if they're putting like Punisher skulls on theirs to be ironically funny to pick on Americans.
Oh, they are.
Yeah. I think I'm not the biggest fan of everything about the AR-15, but it's more reliable than it gets credit for. And the AK-47 is more accurate than it gets credit for. So the fact that it's being adopted over there because it's modularity and lightweight, why not?
I was a little surprised by the article just because I thought that the AK was, essentially just so popular over there that the AR would never even make it that way.
Well, but Russia is a good 20, 30 years behind America on all things, like music, fashion, stuff like that. So you go over there and it looks like you're in the 90s America, Eastern Europe, just the clothes they're wearing. I think they just fall that far behind and want to do whatever we were doing back then.
Because they're so cold, they don't want to.
We have Kalashnikov USA here in the USA, but they don't actually make a 7.62 by 39 or a 5.45 AK. So, like, what caliber are they making these ARs in there? Is it 223, 5.56, 5.45? What are they doing?
Yeah, 223. Well, they've got all the cheap 223 Russian ammo.
And if they look that old and they're probably not that great, did Palmetto State Armory start a factory in Russia?
That's what's going on here. They also have them in 7.62 by 39.
I've already pissed like everybody off in chat. Talked about 40, Palmetto State Armory. I'm sorry. I'll never be invited back. What's next?
P320. Here, you can hate on SIG some.
Oh, I hear it all the time.
P320 news. 6 Hour wins patent infringement case from Steyr. Steyr was trying to claim that they had the patent on the modular trigger housing and everything. And turns out they don't have a claim to that, according to the court. So I guess SIG is in the clear for now. And nobody
big company
cares.
Versus big company.
And also the SIG P365 is the best-selling handgun again for 2019. And it was in 2018. So who cares? H&K contracts modify Army sniper rifles, and this just is another kind of who cares article. But
I think it's good news, but it also sucks that it's got to be HK. I mean, HK it's a good company and there's some good people there. I'm just saying I'd love it to be a more American company doing it, but whatever.
Right.
I'm glad they're
They-
upgrading
they-
it. I
they-
hated the SR25 with a passion. Hated my SR25, which was even what they're fixing now. The reliability, the accuracy, all that stuff wasn't there as far as I'm concerned. So I'm glad they're getting a proper overhaul.
And the PG-22 Maverick. This is actually a YouTuber did this. It's a 3D printed revolver. It's kind of like a pepper box revolver, but it's pretty interesting. He's got like individual. He used 22 caliber barrel sleeves to basically make an individual barrel for each each barrel of the cylinder or each slot of the cylinder, and it looks perfectly functional. I mean, it's crude, but I don't know. Really kind of a cool video to watch through. If you guys have time, you can check the show notes at firearmsradio.tv/thisweekinguns.
I think the more of these kind of things, the better. I think not
Definitely.
being able to stop the signal is awesome.
Yeah.
I think the creativity is awesome out there. I think a lot of these export control changes and stuff going on really got people excited. Last week, if you're a geek that cares about import-export laws, that the ITAR change happened. This week, it finally went into effect. So as of Monday, most people don't need to worry about ITAR anymore, which is amazing. And the one hang-up was 3D printed files. This was in court cases as recently as last week about, are they going to deregulate them completely, or are they going to just be able to put online free-for-all now, which they're not, by the way. But I think it's great. I think it's the future of the firearms industry.
Yeah, I love ideas, man. What's
awesome.
something new, and maybe this little 22 Maverick thing isn't the thing that stays out there forever. It doesn't get really popular, but there's gonna be another idea that comes from this, and then it evolves into something else. Which is why I love the Silencer Co. Maxim 9. The future of what that thing does, and as a red dot host, as a suppressor host, and everything else. As that stuff evolves more, and somebody else takes that idea and makes it better, and then the next thing, it's like tons of little cool stuff like that. We had the John Moses Browning made the 1911 moment of silence. All right, it's over, and then we had now we've got all these great guns too that kind of derive from that first auto pistol. So the future of these little things. I love cool ideas, but the firearms industry, a lot of us in our community are very quick to bash anything that doesn't fit their particular life or need or whatever else. And I just love cool stuff and cool ideas, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, we're talking about prepping and being able to make your own food or get your own water, do your own things at home. This is making your own guns. I mean, there is 3D printing for metal, right? They call it additive manufacturing is the technical term for manufacturing. They make it, and the military has even said in these recent government contracts the last couple of years, they give a preference if any part on firearms now for any of these government contracts, if any of the parts can be made with a 3D printer. There's a preference for that gun because they want to be able to be overseas with one printer, and they need a part. They'd love to be able to hit a button and have that part pop out instead of having to carry it with them. It just makes sense.
That's cool. If I read that article right, that guy made it based on a Nerf gun, which I thought was pretty awesome.
Yes, the Maverick Nerf gun.
Yeah.
With is this the same rotating, the same everything? It's pretty cool.
I thought that was pretty awesome. I was just driving the other day thinking like, man, I want more Nerf style real guns.
I've never thought that, but I should think that more. I like that.
Nerf style real, just the look of them.
No, I want like real, I want a gun. Like, I don't know. I'd have to look at some of the like Nerf guns that my nephew has, but some of them are just real badass looking.
Yeah.
So the other cool thing about this video is that he just used real basic hand tools. Like he didn't have like a lathe or anything. Like he just used a cordless drill and drill bits and hammer and like even JB Weld and stuff like that to kind of like put.
So he works for Palmetto State Armory.
Yeah, he's an armor. That's how you become a certified PSA armor. Right? So I guess they're not sponsoring the show.
No.
I almost said Cole.
Goodness.
Oh, they don't sponsor the show, do they?
No, not anymore.
I'm really never getting invited back. Okay, I should have asked that.
Well, I'm offended. We're to the I'm offended section. I'm not necessarily offended.
I'll pick another company. I'm sorry. In their defense, I'm hearing a lot of cool things about the little AK pistol caliber carbine and a few other little things like that. They're pretty good. Sorry. There, I redeemed them.
You can not really. You can contribute to the Firearms Radio Network and This Week in Guns by shopping our Amazon affiliate link. Head on over to firearmsradio.tv/Amazon. So Joe Biden loses it, tells gun rights supporter he's full of something, and yeah, that kind of went viral. And two companion stories here. Michigan man who confronted Biden on guns speaks out, and then Bloomberg's gun control groups endorse Joe Biden.
I think that video was a net result of zero because it got all of us excited to share it and go, look at that. See, he's going to come take our guns, and look how he curses, and look how he comes after somebody. But guys, we have someone that does the same kind of thing that goes a little off the cuff or is a little tough. For Biden's side, they love it. They can't get enough of that video. Biden's side can't share the video enough because to them it shows that he's not this polished politician. He's not afraid to say it like it is and face people head on.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, now that you bring that up, I mean, who knows? It could have been, the whole thing could have been a plant.
Because the average person, yeah, it could have been for sure. The average person doesn't realize, the Second Amendment. They don't realize anything, and Biden clearly doesn't realize it. Like the preaching to the choir as usual. But the Second Amendment does not guarantee any rights to anybody. It just guarantees that the government can't touch them. Right? Like that's it.
Well, I mean, it caused a panic. I went looking right after I saw that video clip, and I could not find a single AR-14 in stock anywhere.
I was thinking about selling AR-14 magazines at Gun Mag Warehouse.
Please do it.
Just got them in stock. It's like an empty box. I might do an Instagram post or something more.
Well, wasn't it Brownells that had a sale on AR-14s and like the coupon applied to all AR-15s as well?
I saw some company. It wasn't Brownells. I saw a company like a meme today that they were selling out of AR-14s because they were giving 100% off.
Brownells did a World War III commemorative pistol with the 320.
I saw that. You can pre-order it. Does it come out before or after World War III? That's the thing. I don't know.
That's pretty funny.
So Sean Penn had his 67 guns made into a dark totem-like sculpture to please, how do you say her name? Charlize Theron.
So a dark totem-like sculpture pleases Charlize. Anyone else read that the way I do?
Take notes.
What would you not? Did you see her in Fast 8? What would you not do to please that woman?
I have not seen any of those fasts since I think 2.
Penn described himself as a self-proclaimed alpha male who owns 67 firearms. I mean, we all think of him as an alpha male, right?
There is nothing nothing says beta male more than claiming to be an alpha male.
Every time I see Sean Penn or think of him, I think of Sean Penn in Team America: World Police. I think they nailed him the best in that film.
He talks a mean game.
I don't know
if you guys ever seen those clips or seen like Zach Galifianakis between two ferns. You guys ever see those videos?
Yep.
No.
He was on there, and he's
between two ferns is good.
He's talking. Yeah, it's hilarious. Charlize Theron's on there too. He's talking some serious smack. He seems like one of those guys that has no problem talking about how tough he is because he's in the environment he's in.
So in that article, this kind of took me by surprise here, was that in the article it says that, so he did it because Charlize is anti-gun. And it says the 44-year-old South African actress' anti-gun beliefs were formed as a teenager when her abusive father drunkenly shot at her and her mother. Theron's mother fired back in self-defense and killed him. So that made her anti-gun?
Yeah. I hope she's anti-alcohol also.
Yeah, right? I don't get it. How does that make you anti-gun?
Yeah, I don't know. I would have thought outcome would have been the opposite.
Exact opposite.
There's a lot of folks in that industry who do a lot of mental gymnastics to fit in with their crowd that also does mental gymnastics.
Mm-hmm.
It sure seems that way. I mean, they live in, like you were just saying, preaching in the choir, echo chamber. They live in their own echo chamber. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that was how they think that the way they see the world, because their peer group sees it one way. It's the same thing that we deal with. I mean, I know that I talk to people and they're like, I don't get it. Why doesn't everyone see it this way? Well, because we're talking to each other.
That's one scary thing. I was talking about that the other day, man. And it's kind of a tangent. I apologize. The groupthink that's occurring through social media on both sides. Doesn't matter what your political spectrum is, where you're at the fall on the political spectrum. But we've got this whole community in our entire country, in the world in some cases, but mostly in the U.S. I see it because I live in the U.S. But where I've got nieces and nephews who will look at something like, well, I don't know how, or I'll say something like, I don't know how to feel about that. When they say that, they're telling me that they need to go check with their favorite celebrity or their group on social media and see what they feel about it. It's because they can't think for themselves. They have to figure out what their group feels about it. And then, okay, that's the way I need to feel, because that's the consensus of the majority of people feel that way, that I want to be friends with. So my favorite celebrity feels that way. I've got to feel that way. I think it's so dangerous, right? Like the world we live in right now. And we're so guilty in the firearms community. The libertarian, Republican, Democrat, whatever, we're all so guilty of it, and it's become a dangerous thing we need to watch out for.
Yeah.
Next story, and nobody really cares at all about this, but Dick's Sporting Goods dumps gun sales at 440 more stores. That's because no one was buying them at Dick's.
Good.
In a move of desperation, I actually went to Dick's the other day to buy ammo and walked in and found that they are remodeling my local Dick's. And
did you like it?
That was the first thing that they are quote unquote remodeling, is the entire shooting sports section. And I asked her, is it going to open up again? And the guy kind of gave a very not optimistic.
Did you think it was a clean Dick's?
With all the
strange smell. Okay, I'm sorry.
Moving on to the full auto news segment, stories the real media won't talk about and other crazy stuff. Each host picks a story to call their own. Patriot Patch Company helps make this possible. Check out the Patch of the Month Club and check out all the other awesome patch designs, over 85 designs in stock, patriotpatch.co. All right, so who wants to go first?
Is this the...
I'll go.
Yeah.
My name's up there for it. That's okay with you guys?
Yeah.
Chicago man drives himself to the hospital after being shot in the head. The article is about useless. The headline tells you everything you need to know. And the reason I picked this one is I wanted to remind everybody out there, if you can take one thing away from this, it is people don't die when they've been shot necessarily. People can be shot in the head and keep fighting. They can be shot 5 times in the chest and keep fighting. Just a small reminder for you folks out there, if you're going to be using a firearm in self-defense, it's not like the movies. You don't pull the gun out. The guy doesn't get hit. The bad guy doesn't get hit with one bullet and fall down and die. They keep fighting until they run out of blood or pass out, or even in the central nervous system. Sometimes people live with shots to their head. So just be careful. Stay in the fight until the fight's over. Not saying this guy was a bad guy, just illustrating the point.
Always double tap.
Was it a handgun?
They didn't say. They said he wouldn't even give details on how he got shot or if he knows how he got shot. He's just in critical condition.
I was going to say maybe there's another lesson that we learned, because we don't typically see good solid headshots, cranial vault entry with rifles, people surviving that. But handguns, yes. Yeah. But if we don't know, we don't know, Can't speculate. We can't be the fake news.
I thought the most interesting part was that he could get shot in the head and then still drive. Kind of what Ryan already said.
Happens.
That you can, you do think that a shot to the head is going to put you down right away, kind of like that church shooting a couple months ago. And it might not always be that way.
This is why I think hunting is great. One, I love hunting. I like having all of our meat that we eat, something I've killed. But it teaches you a lot for those that haven't been in the military, haven't been to war or seen anything, to go, oh, things don't necessarily just die. If it's got a will to live, it might have a will to live.
Yeah, when I was in the police academy, they told us a story about a guy that got shot in the heart. A bank robbery suspect came out of the bank, got shot in the heart by the police, and they said that if a heart surgeon had been standing next to him when it happened, there's no way he could have survived. And this guy still fought, shooting at the police for another 45 seconds.
Basically, when the oxygen in your brain runs out, then you're done. The pump's not working, but there's still oxygen there till it's not.
I tell people to picture holding their breath and then pinch their jugular and see how long it takes them to pass out. That's how long you have to fight back.
Oh, maybe I'll do that to go to sleep tonight. I have trouble going to sleep. Maybe I'll try that next time.
Be careful, David Carradine.
So last time I hosted, we had a story about a lady that got shot in the head, and it was like it kind of glanced around her skull. and she went to the hospital, and they like put a Band-Aid on it and sent her home, but there's still a bullet under her skin. And
we had that happen in Savannah when I was doing my clinicals in the Savannah Hospital in 2002 maybe. A lady had used a small J-frame revolver, shot herself in the head, and the bullet was still on the other side. It was on the other side of her head, but it raced under her skin around the skull to the other side of her head.
That's crazy.
Somehow it didn't leave the skin. And she woke up because it knocked her out. And she woke up in the hospital realizing that she failed.
So it was
that.
between the skin and the skull?
Yeah, it was the back of her ear.
Wow.
That's crazy. All right, Daniel, what do you got?
Oh, okay. I have Twitch streamer suspended after accidentally firing a real gun in his monitor. I'm not going to give much of my opinion on it. I've done a whole podcast episodes on the things that people do stupid with guns on the internet and how it sets us back every time it happens. Professional Call of Duty streamer who brandished a gun on stream and accidentally fired a round into his desk, had a little desk pop, has been suspended from Twitch and dropped from his esports organization. This is like a professional gamer, like good gamer, got some sponsors and everything else. I'm not sure how many followers he had on Twitch. I didn't look that far into him, but he had a desk pop and there was a beer on his desk, so he was drinking and playing with his gun at the same time. Swore up and down that it was unloaded. People always get accidentally shot by unloaded guns. It's just the way it always ends up happening. That's what happened, and he put out a little apology video that I did not watch. This kind of stuff drives me insane when somebody does something stupid like this, setting us back. It's asking for more regulation when we should be well regulated among ourselves. And somebody doing something stupid like this, especially on a channel like Twitch, which I'm on, and there's so many young, impressionable gamers and airsofters and stuff out there that are just this close to being part of our community, and fighting for the same things we're fighting for. They're right there. These kind of examples are not what we need in that community at all.
Absolutely. Donnie, what do you got?
So mine was, let's see here. California man trying to evade police drives into active shooter training drill area. Did you guys ever see a movie, a shitty Chuck Norris movie called Code of Silence?
I don't think so.
There's a scene in that movie, and it was all I could think of when I read this headline. There's a scene in the movie where these two guys go to rob a bar, and they walk in, and it ends up being a cop bar. And as soon as they pull their guns, like 40 like off-duty cops all pull their guns on these guys. And it was all I could think of. Like, that seems to be like that's a Hollywood written story. And it happened in California that this guy drives into an active, like a training drill area where they may not have had, I was thinking about it, like they might not have had loaded firearms while they were training. Or they most likely
might be the best place for him to have gone. There's probably more confusion because of that.
Yeah. Is this part of the scenario? Right.
Yeah, right. But then, I mean, they're probably radioing ahead like, yep, we're on this street. And these people in the training area are going, are you shitting me? He's about to come here. Sorry, Kenny. I don't know. I thought it was crazy that how bad is your luck that you're running away from the police, which it never works out, almost never works out. Once they get a helicopter in the air, forget it. You may as well just pull over. And then to drive right into a place where just probably dozens of police officers are training already.
Whenever Mayday Safety is part of the school active shooter training, I'm always nervous about that. I'm always panicked. Yeah, because if that day an active shooter actually happened, nobody would call 911. People would take it as part of the drill.
Part of the training.
They wouldn't realize. I mean, imagine during fire drill testing and actual fire breaking out. Imagine how bad that would be. Just always makes me nervous.
All right. So if any of you want to pick a bonus story, you can. I'm going to do mine real quick here. We got a little bit of extra time. World War II hand grenade on display at Eisenhower National Historic Site turns out to be live. That's right. This thing was found on the beaches of Normandy. And for all these years, it's been a live grenade. Like, I don't know where it was before it came to this museum, but like the museum put out a memo, or maybe it was like the whole National Park Service or something, put out a memo and they said, hey, you might want to check to see, make sure there's no live ordnance in any of your displays. And so they checked and they were like, oh, this grenade's real. So they safely detonated it, which is kind of a shame.
Ooh.
Yeah.
How long did it say it's been sitting there?
Well, it was at this site for years, like
1942.
Well, no, this specific site, like 2 or 3 years. I don't know where it was before this, but
That's even worse. If it's in the same
right,
spot, it
moving
wouldn't be a
around.
problem. But moving around,
Yeah. I'd be nervous with it moving around.
all right.
I don't like current grenades. Like, man, grenades just. I developed a fear of grenades on a deployment once because we're jumping in and out of an AAV, and we'd all be climbing in like 5 more people than you're supposed to have in an AAV, and you see like everybody just kicking. There's a grenade bouncing around between feet, just kicking around on the ground, and I'm like, stop! Or they're stepping on small rockets and AT4s and stuff, and I'm like, It's like grenades, man.
I have a picture juggling live grenades way back when, from like on the Kodak before digital cameras came out.
That's cool,
Kodak
right?
camera.
Because they're super stable. It's like that's all good. It's just like, did that kick knock off the thumb clip? And now that one got hung on this thing, and he kicked it again, and now the pin's out. Now the spoon's flying, right? Like, I'm just picturing like Final Destination happening underneath a bunch of Marines' feet. Right?
And it's kicking around, so there's no way you'd be able to get hands on it.
Oh no,
Get it out. Yeah.
I have pictures of me handling unexploded mortars in Iraq in 2004 because we just didn't care. we're just throwing mortars around, like, because the base that I was on had that stuff. Just you'd ride out. It was a field artillery point from when Russia was there. So there's all sorts of leftover ordnance just sitting on the ground. We'd be throwing it around.
What city was that, or base?
I was in just outside of Qasr, Camp Buka, Iraq. Very south end of Iraq.
That's way down there.
Oh, I feel left out. I'm the only one that hasn't played with unexploded ordnance.
Yeah.
You guys ever take like an old smoke grenade that's already been spent and pull the little firing pin spring loaded back and put the spoon back on and the pin back in?
No. But now I wish I had.
So at the top of all grenades is just a primer. It looks like a primer from a rifle round. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And there's that little lid on a spring that flips. That's what flips the spoon off. So it's bent back with a little firing pin nipple on it under the spoon. And when the spoon gets released, it gets to flip up, which is what throws the spoon off. And it just snaps. It hits the primer just like a firing pin in a rifle. It's that simple how fuses are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you just take the spoon and you dig at it, it's a lot of spring tension. You pull it back. You can get the spoon back on the pin back in. And I thought that was the funniest thing ever. When you're dealing with like a CS grenade or even just regular smoke, all the privates sitting there picking stuff up. You're like, hey, here's one. Wait, I think this one was thrown, but why has it got the spoon on? And you pull the pin, you're like, oh yeah, some idiot must just put the spoon on. And you let go with your thumb and it goes ting, and it throws a spoon off and throw it at somebody. It's just smoke and everyone's scramble. That's my sense of humor. Yeah, you can do that pretty easy.
Good times.
Bonus round. Anyone want to take a bonus story here?
We just did it.
We just told you a bunch of bonus
we just told like 3 stories.
You're welcome.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, you guys go get married now. I will.
Let's become best friends.
That just happened.
97-year-old deputy with 74 years on the job is oldest working officer in history.
That's a sexy Mike.
I thought that was pretty cool. It came from Blue Lives Matter or something like that. In Texas, 97-year-old Texas deputy. He's got like he worked for Fort Worth and a few other departments, and now he's just a deputy hanging out. And his service stripes on his left arm just go all the way from his wrist all the way up to like
go way across his back.
Imagine how much law enforcement has changed for him through 7 decades, just over 7 decades of service.
Man, I got a bad mind because I had a bad joke just then. I'm not even going to say it. But it was going to, if I were to tell this joke, but I wouldn't tell this joke. I would never do that. I would never say this joke.
Right.
But what if someone like that was not as nice a person as me were to tell this joke, they would say, like, you could ask him, but he wouldn't be able to remember anyway.
It's probably true. You're probably onto something.
But I would not do that joke.
Doesn't say what he's doing now. I'm sure he's just like a school resource officer or something.
No, I think
Of
it's
course.
cool, man.
Of
Like
course.
serving the community for that long, even if you're just like shaking hands at events or something like that, still in the game, still serving the community.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Some dedication.
Yeah. I would hope that he's more like what you just said and not like, well, back in my day, we didn't need all this tactical equipment. We
Yeah.
didn't need all this stuff. We didn't need this training. We just needed, we just needed a badge and a gun and $100 a year.
Well, he did talk a little bit in the article about how one thing that has changed is as a police officer is how today you have to be just so much more situational aware.
Yeah, he said
point because
eyes in the back of your head.
Right, because people's attitude towards police today is totally different than back then. Like everyone was like, police were your best friend and everything,
Right.
like the Andy Griffith show. And today, there's so many people that hate you just because of the uniform. So
Right.
That's on both sides a little bit, though.
True.
Maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
He probably went through some bad times too in the 80s. Late the 70s and 80s were not great times for law enforcement either. He's seen a lot of stuff.
Yeah, 74 years of being a police officer. Could you? I don't want to do anything.
The pension must be horrible.
Right.
He's still on the job.
He's getting like 400% when he retires.
Well, that about wraps us up. So, Daniel Shaw, where can people connect with you online and find out?
I'm Daniel Shaw 0369 on all social media. I do try to stream every night on Twitch. That's kind of where I'm recording my podcast. I still go out through Spotify, iTunes, all that good stuff. But I try to jump on Twitch every night and just talk to some people. And I try to jump on a lot of mornings when I'm eating breakfast or after breakfast. We had a little discussion last week about everyday carrying off body. We had a discussion about something kind of every day. There's always something. Just recently had Boone on the show from Dave Benton, Benghazi. Boone, which we know from there. Looks just like the guy who played him in 13 Hours. That's not true. But just the podcast is Gunfighter Cast. Training stuff's over at shawstrategies.com. But really trying to get people over to Twitch and to hang out with a lot of like-minded folks every night and bring in some new people that maybe can become more like-minded.
You're so young and hip. You're on Twitch.
Dude, I'm 40 in like a few days.
So what's Twitch?
It's a place where like video gamers go stream. Here's what's cool.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take up time, but Twitch is when I decided to bring the podcast back. And it's got to go Twitch because I can click a button and have everybody in here with me. We can all be like diagnosing a shooter's problems through the video that he played and sent me a link to right now. We can the capabilities of it. And that's one of the things that pissed me off about this news article that I read. Twitch is gun friendly. And if they're not gun friendly, they're gun indifferent. They don't care. You can put links to gun companies. You can put links to everything else. They just ask that you not point the gun at the camera. Where a lot of the other platforms that we could be on will not allow you to do a lot of things out there, and they're totally fine with gun stuff.
Except for Dusk Pops.
Don't do desk pops.
Yeah, don't do desk.
And I'm okay with them suspending him for that. Totally fine. That needs to be a penalty.
Well, sorry to interrupt, but so my thought there, like the Dusk Pop, that was terrible, stupid and whatever, but would they allow you to stream while you're like shooting on the range?
Go to the range, go live. Yep.
Yeah.
There's a few streamers who do that right now. Yep.
So they're just not cool with the despot.
They are very strict on like nudity, things like that. Very strict on, and there's really no risk of, of me breaking those rules.
Well, as soon as you said Twitch, I was thinking you would be topless on there,
Yeah, not me. But no, it's a really cool platform, what it can do. And people who are on Amazon Prime, which is like everybody these days, they get a free Prime, a free Twitch Prime membership. So they get one free subscribe. So any streamer that they like out there, they can subscribe to them, and it gives them like $5 a month just for using that free subscribe they have sitting somewhere and not using. So there's a lot of good gun people over there on Twitch doing stuff. There's a friend of mine that I met on there actually, who he's a bounty hunter, and he's always hunting on Twitch live, and it's really fun to watch. This is a super positive guy, very polite, very humble, cares about people. It's a great stream. Like his name's Steven in real life, Steven IRL. Like awesome. There's everything's over there. So cool. It's not just video games.
I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah, that sounds cool. So Ryan Kleckner, where can people connect with you online and find out what you're up to?
Use the Google machine. That's probably the easiest way. If you're looking for getting your FFL or trying to learn how to run your FFL and compliance and stuff, I'd love it if you come check us out at Rocket FFL. And for everything else I'm working on, from my books to podcasts to other companies and ventures, Gun University is where it's at. That's the whole reason I made it, is as a centralized hub for everything else. So if you come on by and check us out, we'd appreciate it.
You still do Rocket CCW too?
I do, but I'm actually thinking about shutting it down.
Oh.
Rocket CCW has been fun and it works, but I could put better time into Gun University. So we'll see.
Cool. Donnie Gates, where can people connect with you online and find what you're up to?
I can tell you right now that my town bird is going by right now.
Great timing.
I've been waiting for that all night. The thing goes by every time I record a podcast. I'm like, I hit it every single time.
It's added content. They should pay extra.
Train. So yeah, I am on Instagram and Twitter as Adulting Donnie. You can catch me on my podcast, Adulting with Donnie, every weekend, and I co-host a show, Gun Shop Guys, with my buddies. One owns the gun shop, one's an employee at the gun shop, and I'm a customer of the gun shop. So that's kind of the premise of our show.
That's cool.
Yeah, those are the places you can find me.
Very cool. And you can leave your feedback by commenting on the bottom of these streams. You can also leave us an iTunes review. Don't forget to check out that Amazon affiliate link on firearmsradio.tv to help support pro-gun shows like This Week in Guns and support Patriot Patch Company and Second Call Defense. And that's about a wrap. Thank you, Donnie.
Thank you, Jake.
Thank you, Ryan.
Of course, Jake. I got one more thing. I'm going to interrupt your shutdown.
Okay. What do you got?
NRA canceled the annual meeting, in case you guys didn't hear yet.
Did they? I knew that was coming. That's
NRA just canceled it recently, and I figure I should have saved that as a new news story when you're asking for more. So everyone's got it here first. It's canceled.
Everybody's
really glad I got that hotel insurance, so I can cancel. Yeah.
Wow, really glad I wasn't going in the first place. So
it's actually something I would have gone to. It's 20 minutes up the road. But no.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. And Nashville, that's too bad because Nashville is a great NRA.
I was looking forward to some hot chicken. I really was.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Jake. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry I ruined your Black Panther party.
Sorry.
And the PSA, the potential for a PSA sponsorship.
Yes.
We'll do it again next time.
Just put in the clause, you'll never have me on again. I'm sorry.
That's a wrap, and we'll see you next week.